So, good evening, everyone. Welcome back once again to today's eagerly anticipated session from Dean's Desk. I must say, seeing so many students and parents joining for today's session makes me happier than anything else. And I can promise you that today's session will be of an intellectual variety. I can sense the excitement in the air, and I must admit, even I'm eagerly looking forward to today's session and hearing from our esteemed Dean Professor, Dr. Ashish Bharadwaj. They say curiosity killed the cat, but tonight, curiosity will enlighten the minds of our students and parents alike. So before we begin our session, let's take a moment to appreciate the journey that we have been on so far. We've had the pleasure of hosting 3 insightful sessions. The first one was with admissions head, wherein we talked about a life at a law school. Then we had a session with program team where we discussed about the curriculum, a timetable, clubs, activities, and a lot more. And finally, we had a session with our careers advancement team, which talked about like how we groom the students for internships, then the tie-up with different organizations, NGOs, and like eventually how it evaluates or end is the placement journey, how we groom them. That's what we do. So in all these sessions, we try to answer most of your queries. But still, if you have any queries, today is the day to unleash them all. So today's session promised to provide a different perspective on BITSLAW School, straight from the eyes of our beloved dean. So, and I don't want to introduce Dr. Ashish Bharadwaj with his credentials because it will end up eating most of our time. And also because there's a reason, because I would like to hear it from him because he has his own way of telling it in a story format. So without further delay, let's extend a virtual warm welcome to our Dean Professor, Dr. Ashish Bharadwaj, and let's start this enlightening journey.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Thanks for that very quick introduction. That saves us a lot of time. And thank you for kicking this session off. I welcome all the students. I'm not able to see anyone except Kevin, but I think that's by design. So that's fine. It's a bit odd for me to see myself and now not even Kevin. Okay, that can work. I can address you, Kevin. But I'm told that this session will work well if it's interactive and if you ask some of the most pressing questions, be it a question which you have or your sibling has about BITSLAW School or your parent might have, or a well-wisher who might have raised a question or made a comment about the institution which you want to clarify or get more details on, I would be more than happy to talk about it. I don't want to tell you share a deep background about why legal education is critical, because I presume all of you are privy to that, which is why you've applied for a law program and you've been accepted. So before we start, I must congratulate you. That this congratulation is in order simply because we understand that the entire process that we have as a very young law school, which is part of an otherwise very established university, is quite rigorous. And I'm saying this very objectively. If you've been hassled by the admissions process simply because of the competitive element to it, I am with you. But we deliberately and very carefully decided to do it this way because we firmly believe that this is the only way we can bring in very, very committed students. I don't want to say high quality student because quality is what we intend to provide to you or offer to you in our own ways. But we want students who have the drive and the creativity and some kind of enigma in pursuing legal education. And we want to really help you in this journey. And we have a slightly different approach to it, which makes our entire selection process very rigorous. So all of you, I don't know how many are there in this call, but you have made it through this entire treacherous journey and you've come out of the tunnel with bright shining light. And I must congratulate you. By extension, I also express a token of appreciation to you and anyone who helped you in this process. Shout out to your parents who must have either pushed you into taking up law as an option at a university level, or they would have really motivated you and encouraged you to take up law and apply to BITS Law School. Either way, you will realize later that they had and they are continuing to have a big role. Now, with that, I thought I'll give you a very quick, sweeping overview of how we started and how we imagine this law school to be now and in the next few years, and how the journey is going to look for you. I want to spend not more than 10 to 15 minutes on it. And after that, I hope we can take up as many questions as we possibly can. So just a little bit about myself, something which may not be on the website or on the internet, because not everything should be on the internet. But I come from a family. I was privileged to be part of a family full of academicians, scholars. My father was a political scientist and my mother was a historian. My siblings are also in academia, one in psychology, the other one in cultural studies. My partner is a theater scholar, and I, as you know, I'm from none of these fields, but it's really the mingling of all these disciplines which started at a very early age, and all within social sciences. It really helped me realize, and this realization came much later, that there is a lot of benefit and charm of differences in ideas and thoughts. And it really helped me hone my own thought process and my critical thinking skills, which is also a very important element in our selection process. And this realization dawned much later when I was in grad school, meaning as a PhD student. And my own academic journey is an example of what interdisciplinary education really looks like and how exciting it can be. So if there's any question around what is interdisciplinarity and how it really helps students or professionals, we can take it up later. As you know, I did my bachelor's, master's in India. Then I did my LLM in law and economics. Then I decided to do a PhD because that was the best way to apply whatever you learn in a classroom. And I did that in the broad area of law and business. Then I returned to India. That was a while back. And I joined this place, which I'm sure most of you have heard of, Jindal Global University, a fantastic place in Sonipat in Delhi NCR. In the law school, spent almost a decade there before I got part of these conversations to set up and strengthen the BITS Mumbai campus. This was sometime in 2023 and 2022. And that was really my initiation into thinking about how legal education can be made what we call as new age, and how it can be different, and how can BITS Law School be very different, learning as much as we can from BITS Pilani because they excel in certain areas. There are certain national law schools which have done phenomenally well in certain areas. There are certain private law schools who've done very well in some areas. But still, there is a need to do things differently and to do it more creatively, keeping in mind the needs of the society, the needs of the learner, all of you, and keeping in mind the needs of the legal profession, the way it stands. So that led us to a number of conversations, which really started sometime in the summer of 22, all the way till the announcement of the school, the launch of the school in March 2023. And the question we were grappling with was, how can we make this school different from a very crowded space of 1,700 law schools in our country? And these 1,700 odd law schools are annually producing more than 1 lakh law graduates. So you really have to think out of the box to have a different approach. And we were determined to find a way which not only distinguishes us, but we provide those attributes and elements to future lawyers that were currently missing in the entire system. And this is really the question that I intend to answer, this larger overarching question of how we are different through your questions, which I'm happy to take up in a bit. We were convinced that there is a significant demand for legal education. I mean, we have thousands of applications, and a lot of students are now wanting to experiment and try the legal profession, which means that since it's a professional degree, it means that you have to go through legal education first to get to the profession. Unlike few other areas where a bit of versatility is built in. But something very interesting happened when we were doing these deliberations at the end of year 2022. Our current Chief Justice of India, Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, was appointed as the 50th Chief Justice of India. This was around November 2022. And of course, Justice Chandrachud is admired for his intellect and his passion for the profession, for speaking truth to power. And he has many notable judgments on his resume. But why I'm sharing this bit of trivia with you is it really helped us identify and narrow down our entire thought process of how BITSLAW School should be shaping itself. The new CJI in November 22 outlined 3 priority areas for the Indian judiciary to focus on, at least in his tenure. And these were very important, and these priority areas resonated with us also. The first one was, he said that he wanted to fill all the unfilled positions in the Indian judiciary at the district court level, high court level, and of course at the Supreme Court level. Which means that there was a drastic need for the entire profession and the judiciary also to have good quality lawyers and lawyers with integrity and skill and competence to take up the mantle from those who are kind of leaving the profession, hopefully in safer hands. Second priority was, which resonated with us quite deeply, was he wished to see more diversity in the judiciary and in the legal profession. Diversity both in terms of gender and in terms of regional representation in our court systems. We are, on certain occasions, we come across as a very patriarchal society. Sometimes we see a lot of unevenness in social structures and equations. And he really, as a man of integrity, he wanted to try really hard to address this problem straight up. The third priority is what I will share with you, which is really the one which hit the nail at the center. He said that he, as the Chief Justice of India, really wants to focus on the feeding pool. By feeding pool, he meant that we, as the judiciary, wishes to grow in a certain way. There is an ambition and an aspiration and a strong desire to ensure that those who are coming out of the process of legal education, out of Indian law school, public and private, are able to get the right kind of contemporary exposure and education to be able to do justice to justice. And there's a very important point because, today's judges in our higher courts, High Court or Supreme Court, they reflect the status of the legal profession, which might have existed when they were law students or early stage practitioners, 3 decades ago, 4 decades ago. 3 decades roughly in the case of High Court judges, about 40 years in case of Supreme Court judges. And of course, a lot has changed in how our society has evolved in India, how the Indian economy has evolved, how people's aspirations have evolved, how the challenges and the accomplishments of the legal profession and all the other allied disciplines have changed over time. Our integration with the global economy and with the global legal profession has changed. So if so much has evolved, then certainly a new kind of imagination is required from people who are going to be entering the judiciary in the next 30 to 40 years, meaning we need to expose them with a different approach, with a different mindset, with an innovative pedagogical framework now, so that they can take up these coveted positions in the field of law practice and in judiciary 30 to 40 years from now. Now, at this stage, we were quite convinced that we were thinking in the right direction, and we were further supported in this vision by some really eminent people who came together, and that kind of constituted the advisory council of BITSLAW School. And I invite you to visit our website to take a look at these legal luminaries. They represent the best of global academia in law and in allied disciplines. They represent the best of the law firm industry in India. They represent the best of Indian judiciary. And we are really proud that these people helped us shape the vision. And I'll stop with the vision statement, how it all came together as one sentence, which we call as the vision statement. And we very proudly display and showcase it on our website and a lot of our collaterals and material. That vision statement is that BITSLAW School wishes to become an inspirational benchmark for new age multidisciplinary legal education and research with creativity and empathy. Each of these keywords, you won't believe it, we spent weeks and we deliberated, right from the Chancellor of the university himself, Mr. K.M. Birla, including the Vice Chancellor, the members of the governing body, myself, and some of our other colleagues who joined. We spent a lot of time, and each word in this statement has a relevance. Why we want to be an inspirational benchmark, why we need creativity and empathy, which are the two keywords that stand out, and they reflect our approach also. Why we want to be new age. What is new age about BITSLAW School? Why we have put the word and used the word multidisciplinary. Why do we have teaching and research there? And I will leave on that note, because I hope some of you are going to ask some questions around this journey and how we finalize this vision statement, which kind of crystallizes our journey for the next foreseeable future. Other than that, before I open the floor for questions and for Kevin to moderate it, there are certain priorities that we have identified for ourselves. These for you as students of the incoming batch of BITSLAW School, these priorities will translate into how BITSLAW is different and what are our key areas of strength. And I'm just going to touch on them and hopefully elaborate in the form of answers to your questions. So there is this strong integration with our university, which is BITS Pilani. That's one, which brings with it this critical mass of 1.78 lakh Bitsians that are always with us in this journey. Then there is this approach of seeking guidance and advice from both the luminaries of the bar and the bench, and I'm happy to elaborate on it. The third is that we are very close to moving to our full-scale residential campus, which I believe is going to be one of the best in this country. And again, I'm happy to share more details about it. It's in North Mumbai. It's in Kalyan. Then this entire disciplinary approach of mingling different subjects, which is something very important for law students like yourself. How will this play out in the classroom for you? Then there is this entire approach in our imagination around empathy, which is not just another approach we are using, but I think it's a very, very important, it's a necessity that we have to be mindful of in learning and helping you learn law better. Then our own approach to the backbone of BITSLAW School, which is the faculty, why we think we have a very strong set of faculty members who are not only passionate about teaching, but also represent some of the most rigorous researchers in the group, not just in India, but around the world. And we have a special emphasis on the gender aspect, which I'm sure you already know about now. It is reflected in our current batch of students, but also in the larger setup of the school. I've already shared a bit about the holistic admissions process. You don't need to know much more about that because you've been warriors and you've come out on top after going through that process. And finally, how do we ensure that students who undergo a BITSLAW journey are able to come out with not only the skills and the competencies which are critical, but also with the confidence which the real world and the industry or the world of practice expects them to show. And really the fuel behind that outcome, what induces confidence amongst our student is our approach, not in the classroom, but what we do outside the classroom also. And we have certain initiatives around that. So I'm going to stop there and I'm going to hand it back to Kevin, and let's take up some exciting questions.
At present, we don't have any questions. I would request you all to ask few questions, whichever you have doubts or queries you have.
Kevin, are the participants going to be typing the questions,
Yes.
or can they ask on audio?
No, they need to type it in the, yeah. So we have a question over here.
Okay.
So this is from Prisha. So she's saying this, what is the criteria for maintaining the scholarship percentage for 5 years? Can it be increased?
Prisha, that's a great question. Without getting into the nitty-gritties, because some of the policy nuances change from one year to the other, but broadly speaking, the expectation from any scholarship holder, as you know, there are scholarships that range from 10% all the way to 100%. The expectations from all scholarship holders are the following. Number one, you need to have an outstanding academic standing in your cohort, right? Which means your GPA, your grade point average, or how you perform in one academic year. The second is we expect all our students to maintain very high standards of integrity, honesty, and ethics. Now, these might seem very loaded words, but what this means is that when you enter BITSLAW school and the BITS community, you sign up, and all the faculty and staff members do the same, what we call as honor code. Few things that are non-negotiable. It is about treating everyone with respect, not using unfair means, use of unparliamentary language, things like that, trust, honesty, plagiarism. So we expect all the scholarship holders and the students who are not on any scholarship to abide by and adhere to the honor code in entirety. And as a scholarship holder, sometimes there is some extra co-curricular work which you might be given an opportunity to participate in. That could be in the form of being part of a club, or to lead a certain student society. We have a movie screening tomorrow, for example. So making sure that we get the right kind of activities going amongst the student body, or being part of a faculty's research project, which can result in a publication also. These are some of the things where we reach out to, or the faculty may directly reach out to scholarship holders particularly, and their record in living up to those academic challenges also feeds into the decision to renew the scholarship. It does not increase really, Prisha, because, and it's a very important question, and I hope everyone's listening carefully, the decision to award a scholarship is at the time of your admission, right? Meaning now, let's assume that there is a student A who's been offered admission to BITSLAW school with a 10% tuition fee waiver, whatever the category of scholarship that is. Now, that decision to offer scholarship is based on your entire admissions process, be it your performance in 10th, 11th, your predicted score, or your actual score in grade 12, your performance in interview, one-word essay, comprehension, your other answers in the application form, entrance score, everything. So we don't know when we award that scholarship how your academic and non-academic performance in the 5-year BITSLAW journey is going to be. Because we have selected you, we are hopeful and we are sure that it's going to be great. But that award of scholarship is based on what you have done in the past till the point of admission, and we hope that that will continue. Any change or any increase is then synonymous with rewarding academic achievement, which I don't think is the best way to look at academia as a student, right? As a student, you are expected to do well academically in classroom, outside classroom. And if you're able to fulfill all these parameters, these expectations that I outlined, then your scholarship gets renewed. The default is when you're awarded the scholarship at the time of admission, we are giving it for the entire duration of program, unless you do not fulfill any of those 3 parameters that I outlined. But we block those funds on your name for 5 years, and the onus is on you to kind of ensure that you live up to that. We don't increase it. I hope that answers your question, Prisha. Kevin, yes. You can answer the question on campus visit. I hope you're visiting us soon.
Yeah, we've already answered that. So we have scheduled a visit on 19th April. We have already sent an email, and you just need to fill your details in the Google form. And in case you haven't, just drop in email to admissions. We'll get back to you. So Ashish, we have one other question from Harshit. So I'll try to club few more questions. So the question is, how BITSLAW school would be different from top 3 or 4 NLUs in terms of academics, internships, and placements? And there are 2 more questions talking about, can you elaborate more on internship facilities at BITSLAW school? So you can talk about how BITSLAW school is different in terms of 3, 4 NLUs, in terms of academics, internships, and placements.
Okay, so another great question. See, we have a very simple objective, which I think sets us apart from other institutions. Our primary focus is teaching and learning, which is the reason why all institutions of higher learning were established in the first place. Teaching and learning, not just teaching only, teaching and learning, because one is an input, one is an output. One is a means, the other one is an end to the means. And they're incomplete without each other. Anything outside this is not irrelevant, but it's definitely kind of sparkle on top or cherry on the cake, if you will. So for us, the process and quality of the learning of students is what takes primacy over everything else. We spend a lot of time in ensuring that both the teaching, the input, and the learning, how students receive it and in what form and with what kind of pressure or with what kind of peers, this is what we place a lot of importance on. Now, let me give some very specific examples on how we are able to focus on both teaching and learning. See, in teaching, the first thing we realized is that you have to deliver a curriculum, which is further divided or segmented into courses. Now, we had the luxury last year when we decided to set up the school to revamp the entire curriculum of a BA LLB honors or a BBA LLB honors, right? And not a lot of institutions have that luxury because they've been running for a while. There are certain legacy issues. and it's not always easy to make this change. Now, because of the kind of advice and our reliance on luminaries in practice, in judiciary, and in academia, we were able to bring in contemporary courses in the true sense. And I'll be very happy to give you some very specific instances of courses that were experienced by students in the first semester and in the second semester, which is ongoing. Each of these courses undergo rigorous review by both academicians and by practitioners. Remember, whatever we are doing in the classroom or on campus with students is all fuel, which is going to serve as something that you're going to use for the greater good for your own professional journey. And in order for us to do it well, we need to be in tandem with the expectations of those who are going to be either hiring you or giving you professional opportunities or working with you or working for you or ulta, right? So it's very important to get this very rigorous review of everything done, and we do it for each course. We also do something very interesting is the nature of courses that we introduce. The conventional understanding is that if it's a BBA student, and I'm sure some of you have this question already, what's the difference between a BBLLB and a BALLB? We have a fantastic video on this, which two of my faculty colleagues have did as a webinar a few months ago. So I encourage you to watch it. But broadly speaking, there's a traditional conventional understanding that if it's a BBA program, which is a Bachelor of Business Administration LLB, or a BALLB program, Bachelor of Arts, then all the non-law courses in these two programs will very rigidly follow these two pillars. But here is the interesting part. If a student of BALLB and a BBLLB, if both of them end up in a law firm, whatever, XYZ law firm, in Mumbai or Delhi, then you might be expected to do the same kind of work as an associate. Then the student who has a slightly better understanding of management or a rudimentary understanding of finance on one hand, or a better understanding of politics or history, which is typically part of arts and humanities, with this rigid approach of putting courses in silos, both these students who are working as associates lose out. Ideally speaking, both should know the entire spectrum of what's required to be a good informed lawyer. And this is what we did in our very first semester. We have courses which are relevant across the board. And there's a reason for it, because students come from different contexts, different state boards, different streams in high school. And the first year really goes into a lot of unlearning and bringing all the students on the same level playing field before we start to teach them really the most critical and demanding courses. So this entire approach to curriculum, I think, is very different, very unique, and quite one of its kind. Then something that I mentioned earlier, there is a lot which happens outside the classroom. I'll give one instance. We call it learning beyond the curriculum. Now, as a regulated profession and as a professional program in itself, there are certain law courses and certain non-law courses that we must teach, and we do teach them very well. But at the end of the day, you're still eager, enthusiastic, aspirational 17-year-olds, right? And you look at the world in a certain way, irrespective of whether you want to become an engineer or a doctor or a artist or a photographer or a lawyer. It doesn't matter. And there are certain things that we all acknowledge and appreciate in the world and in our society. So we bring those common elements to provide students with the multi-perspectivity to look at the world, and not to see the world only as a lawyer, which can be rather restrictive. It can be great when you're in the courtroom or with a client, but it can be very, very restrictive when you are in the real world, and that situation has nothing to do with law, right? So to nurture your creativity and to hone your imagination as a sparkling young person, we have certain workshops and courses which go beyond the curriculum. Currently, some of our students are doing one such workshop. It's called Society and Performance, where this external, she's a dancer from Bangalore who's trained in London. She comes and she's teaching students self-portraiture in how you see yourself in the context of the world you are living in right now. And it's a very creative workshop. And the inspiration for this we've got from the liberal arts tradition. And there's something for law schools to learn from liberal arts. Now, there's something which we have learned even from the management school tradition, although it's a very different discipline, different profession. But we learned that even lawyers or law students, when they're completing the 5-year program, they need to be ready for the industry, right? And that brings us to the second initiative which we have, which complements our curriculum. We call it RAW, RAW, Readiness at Workplace. There are few things that I can assure you neither your parents were taught when they were in school or college, nor we were taught or my faculty colleagues, and a lot of our law students in law schools are never taught. Things like email etiquettes, things like how to prepare a professional CV. Some of you might have learned this in school, but you might have to do these things differently as a legal practitioner. How do you prepare for an interview, for an internship with a law firm? Then there are certain courtroom etiquettes around how do you dress, why. Then there are certain competencies required in drafting a memo. Those, if your parents work in the corporate sector, they would know what it means. How do you draft a report? How do you make a slide set? How do you work with Microsoft Excel? Basic stuff. All of this is never taught. And it just makes life simple. So all of this we cover in Readiness at Workshop. I'll come to internships. That was one part of your question also. First of all, we realize that it's a very, very integral part of legal education. It's also mandated by the Bar Council. We have established a dedicated office, which we call as IICA, which stands for Industry Interface and Career Advancement. Industry interface is where the entire networking with the industry happens, and nurturing those contacts, inviting them to the campus, and they speak with students. You should take a look at our social media platforms, on our YouTube webinars. A lot of these industry visitors have spoken with students, and they've given a bite for everyone to see. The other part of IICA is career advancement. That's where the office curates and offers internships opportunities to all our law students, no exception. There's only one exception. That exception is if you, through your own volition, through your own network, help from friends or family members, if you are able to come up with an opportunity, we expect you to come discuss it with our head of IICA office. And if she thinks that it's a better opportunity, professionally speaking, then we allow you to go for it rather than take up the one that we are offering. So it ensures that there is a centralized planning process to internships. The internships are diversified. We look at law firms, we look at NGOs, think tanks, litigation firms, we look at in-house counsels, we look at judges, we look at advocates on record, the entire spectrum. And the advice always is to help you build a portfolio of internships over 5 years, which is diverse enough. I always suggest that you must do one internship in an NGO, which is working in the grassroots, right? They deal with all kinds of legal issues and compliance issues. You should do one with a niche or a boutique law firm. You should do one with a judge. You should do one with a law professor to understand how law academia works, so on and so forth. So we help you build this portfolio over a course of 5 years. I'll stop here.
Thank you, Ashish. We have one more question. It's anonymous. So if someone wishes to pursue corporate law in the future, but finds the BBA program challenging, will it affect him in the future if he goes through the BA LLB program? So I assume now he wants to pursue BA LLB, but he has an interest in corporate law.
Um, See, if your eyes are set on corporate law, I don't think doing a BA LLB is going to make you disadvantageous. Because, essentially they are both 5-year law degrees. And the approach we take is either the courses outside law are common for the two groups, or if you really don't get to be a part of a certain course, then you will have the option of taking it up as an elective later on in your third, fourth, or fifth year. That's a generic response. More specifically, your choice of which program to really go for should not be linked with what you desire to do after you graduate and what you wish to do. I think it rather than the forward linkage of your choice, you should focus more on the backward linkage. Have you been in the past few years of your schooling and your evolution as a learner, as a student, have you been more excited about questions of society, questions of politics, questions of justice, questions that are mathematical in nature, questions that are more transactional or based on accounting principles? So a bit of introspection on what you have responded to better in your school is going to be a slightly better marker and will help you make the decision between a BA and a BBA. And
all right, we are back online. Beto, Kevin. Let me see if sorry, we have lost the questions and the text. It'll be really helpful if you can type it again in either the Q&A window or the chat window. I see one. Is there any? It's from Smriti. Hi, Smriti. It's a question on, is there any forum or such where new students can interact with each other? Interesting question. Let me see if I can facilitate this now. So now I'm walking in our campus. It's a bit like this, just for you to see. It's a bit late. There's one student I see who's studying. Quite late. You're late.
Ashish, please unmute yourself. No, I think you have been muted. Just
Ah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Pradarshini, and I'm doing BLLB out here. Well, I'm very excited to see you guys. Now we have juniors coming, so yeah.
What are you studying
History.
for tomorrow? There's history midterm test tomorrow, so we'll leave Priyadarshini. Thank you very much. So there is a forum. We can figure out a way in which you can chat with some of the students. There is another one who's leaving, but I don't want to bother everyone who's here. Let's take up another question. When does our academic year commence and when the students arrive on campus? Great question. Academic year commences from the 1st of August officially. And because it's a long journey of 5 years and it's a fully residential program, we do a detailed and a comprehensive orientation of all the incoming students, which typically starts 1 week to 10 days before 1st August, meaning, and you'll get this communication in May or June, early June. You should prepare to come to campus anytime between 20th and 25th of July. Plus minus 1 or 2 days. We'll share all the details ahead in time. That's a good question, Sesha. Thank you very much. There's another one from Michelle. Sorry, I don't know if it's a student or a parent, but any question is good question. Are there any debating societies, facilities available at BITSLAW School? Yes, there are actually a number of them. There is a debating society, but more importantly, there is a moot court society. See, mooting is a very integral part of law schools, all law schools. And mooting is when you learn the art of oral advocacy, when you stand in front of a bench and you argue your case with people sitting and observing the proceedings in the background. Something that you might see on a YouTube video when Supreme Court proceedings are shown on different channels. So we have a student-led moot court society. Students have done debating. They've done model United Nations competitions also. In fact, only a few weeks ago, a big delegation of students went to BITS Goa campus. They have one of the largest cultural events in the country. It's a large campus. And they won 4 awards. And I think there should be some content, some social media post about their achievement. So yes, there is a lot that students can do. There is a question from Prisha. And Prisha is asking, good evening to you, Prisha. Will we be shifting to the new campus in the current academic year? See, when you say current, it means right now. Right now, the academic year which is ongoing is the one which started in August 2023. And it will go on till July this year, right? So I think you mean your first academic year, which is going to start from 1st August 2024. For that academic year, all the incoming students like yourself and others in this call are expected to join us directly in the main campus in Kalyan. Right? And we have some beautiful videos of that campus on our YouTube channel. Please check it out. Which also means that the current students who are in the first academic year of the school will go for their internships in the month of June. When they'll come back, end of July, they'll come back directly to the main campus. So you will be welcomed by your seniors when you come. Okay. All right. There's a question from Tarun. Why don't you also kind of track some questions on the Q&A window so that you can tell me, I don't want to miss out any important ones. I'm going to switch in the webinar chat and the Q&A window. There is a question from Deep. What are the sports and sports aligned activities offered by BITSLAW? Deep, on the main campus, we have an entire range of sports facilities, both and out. And we have an entire system of mentoring and supporting you in your sports activities and initiatives. We firmly believe that your efforts and your integration into extracurriculars and sports are as your coursework, right? So actually, that's the starting point. That's what we wish students to do, to take up whichever sports games that they are very interested and excited about. And we'll give you the kind of training which might be required and the equipment. And then you compete. You have fun with it. You go out to other institutions. You test yourself. You compete, and doesn't matter what the outcome is. That's the kind of support we offer. I hope that answered your question, Deep. There is a technical question on AI from Tarun Ramaswamy. I see it on both the windows, so that helps me. Given the growing importance of AI and its increasing influence in the field of law, is there any plan in place to train students on the use of AI, not only as a specialization, but also as a part of regular coursework? That's an excellent question, Tarun. I think there are at least 4 ways in which we are looking at AI at this point. The first one is the use of AI in the life of a student. So AI as an enabler or sometimes a distractor to the process of learning for students, right? That's one. And for that, we have already published what we call as guidelines for generative AI. We have not prohibited the use of, let's say, ChatGPT 4.0 or Bard, but we have, as I told you about earlier, about this honor code and students learning the art of citation, which is part of a first semester course. These guidelines encourage and inform students on how to professionally and ethically use these AI tools. That's part one. Part two is one application area which comes to my mind is mediation. There is one of our specializations is also around ADR and mediation. One of our advisory council members is more reputed industry, Mr. Panchu. It was his idea. We are trying to initiate familiarity and exposure of our students to the art of relying on a virtual mediation where you don't really have to be sitting with parties and to help them resolve a certain dispute or conflict. You could do it digitally, and you should be able to use the tools of AI integrated into it. Right now, it's at a very preliminary stage where there is real-time translation happening because some of the parties or people involved in the mediation proceedings might not be comfortable with English. Some of them might be proficient only in English. So you need that real-time translation, which is an application area of AI. The third is the entire issue of ethics, which we are trying to expose students to. I'll give an example. And for this third point, you should check out a video on our YouTube channel, which is a recording of the symposium, which we did last week, I believe. It was a symposium on artificial intelligence, deep fakes, their role in digital societies, and the whole idea of trust in democracies. And we did this in collaboration with two of our partners, which will answer one of the questions from Harshit on partnerships. And we are trying to expose our students on the larger questions that AI poses to us as humanity, not as law students or law professors or lawyers, judges, but the larger questions, which, and some of these questions were triggered by this whole fiasco around the misuse of deep fakes, which is one of the forms of machine learnings or deep learning, which is again one of the strands of artificial intelligence. It's very important because as informed citizens and voters, one needs to know how to distill information and knowledge from misinformation and not become victims of any frivolous content which might be online. The fourth is a bit more technical, how to understand certain rigorous tools of using AI. And that's essentially certain elective courses around coding. It could be a course on Python, it could be R, it could be basic technical fundamentals of artificial intelligence. These are elective courses that we wish to offer in the fourth or the fifth year when students have a very solid understanding of the law courses and the other courses to apply this technical AI coding language on, right? So very comprehensive response to your question, Tarun. If you have a follow-up, please don't hesitate to ask. Then I have a anonymous question. Is there a way to be reconsidered for scholarship? Well, send in an email, and if there is a way for us, for our admissions team to do it, then they'll consider it. But what I can tell you is that we spend a lot of time and qualitatively on each shortlisted applicant. So if a decision has been made on selection or on waitlist or on scholarship, you can be assured that it has been done with great imagination, with great insight and thoughtfulness. But still, if you feel there is a case, do send an email. Harshit has another great question. Yeah, foreign universities. So Harshit, our approach to internationalization is slightly different from what some other institutions might be doing. We are looking at meaningful partnerships with international universities and law schools. When I say meaningful, I mean there has to be some substance of academic engagement and not only these paid programs that you could sign up for and go. Those are also good and they can add a lot of value, but we want a bit more academic depth and rigor in our partnership. Let me give you some examples. At this point, we have partnerships with, the first one that we signed is with a university in the heart of New York City called PACE, P-A-C-E. Now, PACE is not an Ivy League, but PACE has one program in environmental law, which is ranked one in North America consistently for several years. This is an example of the approach we are taking in our internationalization strategy. We have 4 specializations, which you can read about on the website. Environment, if you will notice, is not one of them. But environment is a terribly important area and we can't ignore it. So our thought process is, who in the world is best suited for us to reach out to and partner with to offer courses around international environmental law, climate change law, or energy law, and possibly do a partnered program. And after doing our due diligence, we realized that PACE is the best one, not only because of its geography, location, and reputation, but also in terms of their faculty and research. This will give you an example of how we are approaching internationalization. This symposium that I was telling you about on deepfakes and AI, we did that with 2 institutions. Both of them are potential partners because the paperwork is not completed yet. One is University of Sussex in the UK, and the other one is an American institution called USC, University of South California. They have a fantastic law school called Gould School of Law, Gould. One very senior professor in USC Gould is also on our advisory council. We are also in touch with certain institutions in Australia because Australian institutions do very well in the area of sports management, sports governance, and sports law. And because it's one of our areas of sub-specialization, we are in touch with them to build this. But all our partnerships are going to be rather academic, involving faculty and students and dialogue among people, joint projects among people, be it faculty or students, rather than only a transactional relationship where students go and do semester exchange, study abroad, LLM, dual degree. All of those are also part of the plans. All right. Very, very important question on what are the medical facilities on campus. I will be able to give you, or someone from our team will be able to give you very specific responses, because I don't want to give you unverified information about facilities. But what I can tell you is that we will have a fully functional multi-bed medical facility on the residential campus. It's a residential campus that will be home to many people. So there will be doctors and nurses. There will be full-time equipment for any kind of minor or major medical emergency. There's going to be an ambulance on standby. And there are 2 hospitals in the vicinity, including a Fortis, which we are tying up with in case any unforeseen emergency happens. But it's an anonymous attendee who's asking. I urge you to ask this question again after a month or so that you can get very specific answers to this question. All right, let me switch over to webinar chat because I've been ignoring it for a while. Michelle has a question on, do internships commence within the first year or do we take them on in the later years? Excellent question, Michelle. Internships begin from the very first semester break. It's a 5-year program. Every year, there are 2 semesters, which means there are 10 semesters in total, which means that you will have 9 semester breaks in the 5-year LLB program. You have to start an internship from the first break itself. I'll go one step back. We will help you start prepare for that first internship from the first month of law school. Now, the nature of internship and your work will evolve over time. A lot of our students, and I again encourage you and welcome you to check out some of the videos on our social media channels where students have shared their internship journey. Some of them have done internship in NGOs. Some of them have worked with advocates. Some of them have worked in law firms. And they had different experience. The nature and the intensity and rigor and scope of their work will vary tremendously when they are in the 3rd year or let's say final year, right? And you'll get more information in due course. We don't want to encumber students about internship only. All right, switching back to the Q&A window. Good evening, Gia. Will more specialization courses be added as the time progresses? Gia, if you mean specialization areas, then the answer is yes. Currently, we have 4 areas of specialization and each is divided into 2 domains, if you notice. So corporate and financial law, entertainment, sports, media and tech, ADR mediation. So effectively, there are 8 areas. But we plan to add more areas in the near future, right? As I told you, the areas of specializations have been curated, keeping in mind the needs of the profession, of the industry, and the judiciary, right? And which is why we have a very sound advisory council. When we get more nuanced information about the evolving needs of the industry and the profession, we will definitely add more. If you mean specialization courses, subjects that are offered in semesters within one of those areas, then the answer is yes. There is going to be a wide array of elective courses that will feed into these specializations. One very important point, you don't have to necessarily select an area of specialization. Those are only to give the opportunity to kind of go deeper into one of those 4 areas. You can also keep it a more general, more expansive law degree that you're doing and pick and choose from all 4 areas or some of those 4. You don't necessarily have to pick one. All right. I'll take one more from Q&A. What did you look for in a student from a scholarship? Kind of very quickly answered that question already. The admission team can kind of give you more details, but whatever, we look at everything. We look at your academic performance, curricular, co-curricular, qualitative, quantitative. We look at everything, right? Because it's really a privilege. Scholarship cannot be construed as a right. And we really don't want to falter here. We want to offer them to the most deserving students who are looking for financial aid. There's another question from anonymous attendee. Now I think the anonymous attendee is a parent. What is the academic year? So academic year is, it starts from 1st of August and it's 1 year long. So technically it ends on 31st of July of the following year. And that 1 year comprises of 2 semesters. This is a very important point because certain law schools like National Law School Bangalore follows a trimester system. So there'll be 3 blocks or 3 cycles of teaching in 1 year. We follow the most common system in the world, which is a semester system, meaning 1st August, the academic year begins with, let's say, monsoon semester, right? Because we are in Bombay. It'll be raining at that time. It's typically a 15 to 16 week long teaching cycle, which means by the end of November, the teaching for that semester will come to an end and final exams for that semester will begin. And we will wrap up by early or mid-December, and then a semester break begins. You can call it a winter break or the first semester break. That semester break will last till end of January. Then we begin from 1st of February, the spring semester, or you can call it the summer semester, which again has the same duration, 15 to 16 weeks. The teaching will end in May. The exams will end soon after that. And the exams for the summer semester will be only on the courses you do in the summer semester, not the one which is already lapsed. And then you get your second semester break, which was going to be in June and July. And on 31st of July, that one full academic year cycle comes to an end. There'll be 5 such cycles. Yeah. All right. Will we ever get to see our children in 5 years? I sincerely hope so. And there will be many opportunities in the semester breaks. They are encouraged and they are they have the flexibility to plan their travel in advance and go home, because our students in the current batch, for example, they come from 20 different states. There are students from Jammu, Kashmir, Kerala, Bengal, and Delhi, even Maharashtra. So they need to plan their journey in advance. We understand that, which is why we prepare an academic calendar of the entire year in advance and we share it with students. So you will definitely get to see them in the semester break. We typically encourage students to not head home over the weekend. Although if there is really a desire and an urgent need, they are welcome to do so, because it kind of disturbs the entire social life as a residential campus. Even the weekends are important. But yes, to answer your question, you will definitely get to see your children in person multiple times in a year, and virtually, I hope more than that. Let me switch back to webinar chat. Which one do I take, Kevin? Smriti is asking a question on what's covered in orientation. That's a great question, Smriti. So I can tell you what, because the current orientation for your batch, the orientation plan is still in the works. We haven't finalized it yet. I can give you a sense of how the orientation with the previous one looked like. So it started with what we call as a welcome gathering, and uh, we then have our faculty members introduce themselves, introduce the courses they are going to be teaching. Then we have all the different departments that engage with students on a regular basis, introduce themselves and the nature of their work. The program team who takes care of attendance, exams, evaluation, grading. All of that is kind of housekeeping logistics. More importantly, because you will have seniors, they're going to tell you some of the initiatives and some of the systems that students have built themselves, which kind of you will take forward with them. Those includes clubs, societies, how you can participate, how you can sign up, how to vote and stand for elections of student council. Then we have sessions, guest sessions, where some prominent lawyers come in and speak directly to you to kind of as pep talks. We had invited Ms. Pallavi Shroff last year. She's the managing partner, as you know, of Shardul Amarchand Mangaldas, also on our advisory council. We have sessions on L1, which is called how learning in a law school should be and what you should expect. And I can tell you it is radically different from what you are used to, irrespective of the board and the system you have followed. Yeah. And there's typically a lot of fun stuff, group exercises, bonding sessions, how to work in different teams, because it's going to be a very diverse group from different states, different languages. It's a lot of fun. No teaching in orientation, no teaching, no tests, no exams. We might give you certain links, certain movies, or certain very interesting text to read so that you have some talking points during the orientation. No assessments. All right. If we wish to apply for a merit cum means scholarship, what is the process? Oh, okay. So Kevin has already replied. Please drop an email on @com ID. I'm not sure what this means. That you've done? Okay. So my colleague Kevin is going to share the @com email ID again. Rishima is asking, do we plan to add more areas of specialization beyond the current 4? Yes, Rishima, I just answered that. We currently have these 4 broad areas, but when you read them very carefully, there are actually 8 domains because each one has 2 in it, right? I'll give an example. My area of work is intellectual property, right? IP law is kind of this broad field. Within that, patent law. Now, IP law is per se not part of our 4 specializations, but it's built in, right? So that media technology specialization has that tech domain. Within tech, we have IP. So these are fairly broad areas which will cover quite a bit of the landscape, but we will add more areas in the near future, depending on the needs of the profession and the industry. Yeah. When will the academic calendar be available to us? Well, we will prepare the academic calendar very close to the time when we share the orientation plan, but you will certainly get to see it by the time classes begin. There's a very simple reason for it. Academic calendar also has a list of public holidays, right? And not just religious, but the ones that are in the Gazette, Independence Day, Republic Day. But that entire list of public holidays has to be mapped with timetable so that we can make up for certain lost classes. For some of those dates, we have to wait for the official announcement by the state government. As soon as we have that and we have a draft timetable, we put the two together and prepare the calendar and share with everyone. So please be patient, but you will get to see it before classes begin. We are running out of time. What is the academic year? So I've answered this one. Yeah. Q&A. That's the last question from Ashish Singh. Of all law schools, why did you choose BITSLAW? What do you expect from an incoming freshman? Incoming student, I like more gender neutral words, but I know freshman is Americanized and it's a popular term. I chose BITSLAW for 2-3 reasons, and I'll be very candid. The first reason is that it was an opportunity to create something afresh. You can think of it as a startup. There is obviously no dearth of law schools in our country, right? But the opportunity to do something afresh with some of the best minds in academia and industry and judiciary coming together to make it work is just one of a lifetime opportunity that one can hope for. So that's definitely one. Linking one with my second point, why did I kind of consider this once in a lifetime opportunity as worthwhile is because law is a very unique discipline and a profession in itself. I truly believe that it has the potential to not only save lives, but change lives. There are certain disciplines that have this kind of gravitas and this rigor to them. Without really saying that one discipline is superior than the other, but like architects make structures and superstructures that outlive human beings, right? Similarly, doctors, they intervene in those moments and circumstances that really literally can save a human life. I think similarly, lawyers and those who are part of the legal profession have the unique capability of shaping the society so that humanity can be preserved in the way we all want it to be. And that's it's really it's a common and a differentiated responsibility on all human beings, but the ones to really give it shape and flavor and substance are law practitioners and by extension judges. So that really puts the entire discipline and profession in a very unique situation. If you open the newspaper, whichever state you are in right now, you will see on the first page at least 1 to 2, if not more, front page news pieces that touch on the legality of an issue or the decision of a judge or a court or a certain legal dispute. So it's really hardcore, right in the middle of our social lives, our politics, our economy, our humanity. The third reason is that the BITS, the first word, the first letter is Birla, and it's a visionary industrial group that has been invested financially, intellectually, culturally in the whole idea of providing very, very superior higher education for several decades now. BITS Pilani, by the way, is celebrating its 60th year in 2024. And I'm reading a question again. BITS stands for Birla Institute of Technology and Sciences, a university which was set up in the 1960s, had technology and sciences as their core areas of focus. That will tell you about the vision of the institution. BITS Pilani was the first Indian university to set up an overseas campus about 21 years ago. This was way before we started to talk about internationalization and partnerships. BITS has a campus in Dubai. So, they have a very special place in the STEM disciplines, engineering, computer science. BITS is really at par and sometimes even better than certain IITs. And it took them several decades to get to this stature. The current vice chancellor of BITS, Pilani, our university, is the former director of IIT Delhi, a very established scientist and scholar. And just to take that step back, why did this industrial conglomerate, an Indian multinational, why did why have they been engaging with higher education and their university for such a long time? BITS Pilani started as a Pathshala in 1902, I believe. That's more than 120 years ago. They got the status of a university only in 1964, but they have been very closely associated with the entire freedom struggle. The great-grandfather of the current chancellor of BITS Pilani has been a very close confidant of Mahatma Gandhi. They've been very strong supporters and ardent supporters of the freedom struggle. And this brings us to a very important point. Most of these people who led the freedom struggle from the front have been lawyers, be it Mahatma Gandhi, Sardar Patel, Jawaharlal Nehru, B.R. Ambedkar. They've all played a very important role. And it's very important to keep in mind, how did this entire journey of us becoming a free, independent nation, how was it supported? And it was not only, the Birla Group. There were many other individuals, many other institutions, many other fearless groups who stood besides these people. But it's really, I feel proud to be associated with a group that has been involved with such a endeavor, which is, so in that sense, their journey is goes hand in hand with the journey of India, both pre-independence and post-independence, which kind of gave me more confidence in making the switch and joining this institution. Sorry, very long answer to a short question, but I think this should, this is the last question that we have. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I hope I was able to answer your questions. I have one request. Please schedule your visit to our main campus. Stay in touch with our friends here. I'm sitting in my office. That's Kevin. That's Shreya. This is how my office looks. I was sitting there until we had that power cut. So please stay in touch with them, and they will make sure that you are able to visit our main campus in a timely manner. Thanks so much for your time, and I hope this webinar was useful. Bye.